going to take a look at All Things Must Pass, George Harrison's title song from his 1970 album that really featured a pile of songs, 18, 20 songs, probably more. Filled up 4 sides of an LP. And it's fairly easy on the guitar, but there are a lot of really interesting things we're going to talk about here, and I'll get to that in just a minute. But, George really kind of turned up raised the bar with his songwriting in about 1968. He started churning out songs, particularly after being in India with the rest of the band and everybody else. And of course, the Beatles had a quota of tunes that he could do, 2 per album. So even on the White Album, he got 4, since it was a double album. And While My Guitar Gently Weeps is, of course, one of those, and it really showed where he was going. And over the next couple of years, his biggest masterpieces, of course, Something and Here Comes the Sun, came out on Abbey Road, their last album. But during that time, he was just churning out songs. And in in January of 69, when they were rehearsing for the album that was supposed to be Get Back, eventually came out later, after Abbey Road, and was called Let It Be, of course. But there are conversations that he's having. He's playing some of these songs. He's playing some demos for Paul and John and Ringo. And we hear I, Me, Mine, and particularly this, All Things Must Pass. But he does make comments along the lines of, maybe I should make my own album. None of the rest of them had talked about this yet. Because he says, I've got so many songs that with my Beatles quota, I've got 10 years worth of songs. And I really just want to put them all together and be done with it. And then get on to more stuff. So, as things started heading south, maybe, as far as the Beatles were concerned, he was kind of, the plans were laid for putting out this album, All Things Must Pass, that turned out to, of course, be a triple record. 2 albums, 2 LPs worth of songs, and an LP worth of jamming, just, with Eric Clapton and Jim Gordon and people in the studio. That was really, it was kind of fun to listen to what these guys do when they're just messing around, So, anyway, what we're going to talk about, you actually just saw almost all the chords in the song. And I do want to talk about the first 3 or 4, because it's really just a fairly simple progression in the key of E, more or less, where it starts with an E chord, then it moves up a half step, well, really a whole step, to what would be F sharp minor if you had a bar on. But he leaves the 6th, 2nd, and 1st strings open, and so we've got a chord that's got some of the notes out of F sharp minor in the middle and notes out of an E chord on the top and the bottom. And then that same shape moves up 2 more frets to where it would be G sharp minor if we had the bar on, but no bar. So everything is on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th strings. And then it moves up again to what would be A major if you had a bar at the 5th fret, but leaving again the 6th, 2nd, and 1st strings open. Now, this progression has, he probably heard it the same place that Greg Allman heard it, because Melissa goes the same way. And that was in Sandy Denny's tune, Who Knows Where the Time Goes. Now, I haven't been able to track down an earlier appearance of these chords yet, but there probably is one. But Sandy Denny's tune was written in 1968, I believe, maybe even earlier. And these two were later than that. And they both would have been familiar with what was going on with Fairport Convention and Sandy. Anyway, what I'm going to do in the next segment, we're going to talk about the chords a little more specifically. But I want you to try to figure out what would be, here's the theory part of today's lesson. What would really be the names of those chords if we had to accurately, label them, rather than just, and all I've done in my chart is called them F sharp in parentheses, G sharp in parentheses, and A in parentheses, because I want you to figure out what they might be because of what the additional notes do to whatever chord that is. So there's a challenge you can take or leave. In either case, I will, as we get into the chords, at the end of the chord segment, I'll give you my opinion on those. Most of these there is not one correct answer. Sometimes. There is. What I tell you is going to be right. Anyway, coming up, a lesson on the other thing we're going to talk about in here is variations on this chord progression, where when I just played through it 4 times a minute ago, which is kind of how a verse goes. But also, you can play it very straight. But if you go back and listen to what I did in the beginning, it wasn't that. There are some nice little subtle changes of things that happen how and when each chord change happens. But I'll be breaking that down too. So here we go. All things must pass, George Harrison.